Okay, thank you. Bless you.
Going live. So we're going to hear all about Matt's journey, aren't we, to the Jazz Festival, or has it come off yet?
It has, but it's
You didn't go?
it's low on the agenda. It was wonderful.
Oh, you did go?
I did go, and it was
Of course it
wonderful.
was.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
It was really good. A lot of contacts made, and as Dave will tell you, we have a wealth of opportunity. So we'll see what happens.
Excellent. Yes, you bet you would. Something's going to come out of it. Of course it will.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
for sure.
yes.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great to see everybody. I'm sorry I look so,
So what?
so banged up would be the word that I would use, but.
It's the end of summer.
Yes.
We all understand.
Yes, yeah, I thought, they would ask me to check these things if I were going to the airport, the bags. No, lady, you need to check those. Anyway, welcome. I'm glad to see
Moving right
people
along.
could make it out tonight. Thank you so much. Did everybody have a chance to take a look at the June minutes? Do we have the June minutes in here?
I apologize. I neglected, I think they
I
went
think
out
I
in
brought
an
them.
email?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, they
good.
did. I did take a look at them.
Yes, I did too.
Do we approve the June minutes?
Yes.
Do you
Yep,
second?
Second, third.
All in favor? All right, June minutes are approved. Manager's notes, Dave? Take over.
Thank you, Beth. So, in the interest of being redundant, what I'm gonna say is also, everybody has a copy, just in case. But here it is. So first, I thought I would just talk about some things that have happened since we last got together. We had 2 of the community thank you films. This was our new sort of program of free movies as a way of saying thank you, funded by the Community Arts Fund. So we did the Deconstructing the Beatles, Rubber Soul, which was a lot of fun, and I think everyone liked it. We had 80 about people, cost us about $240. We took in $137 in donations.
Nice.
I will say Mark was there, and he had to duck out, but he said, at the end of the thing, ask show of hands how many people live here and how many people were visiting. So I did. And it was about 1/3 of the people were visitors, and 2/3 were local folks.
Okay,
And
good.
then I asked, I said, I don't know if you enjoyed this film, but if we were to offer another in the series, another one of these Deconstructing the Beatles films, who would come? Every hand went up. That was great. And the good news is, there's a whole series of them. And
Great.
what it is, there's a guy who is a musicologist and Beatles expert. Hey there, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
2 meetings in a row, I've tried to go upstairs and through the front door and go.
That 3rd meeting's gonna be a charm. You're gonna zip. I was just talking about deconstructing the Beatles and what you had asked me to ask the audience. And I was just saying that what the film is, this guy sort of takes one of the Beatles albums and sort of breaks it down song by song, sort of what went into the writing of it, what went into the recording of it, what instruments they used.
Interesting.
So it's great if you're a little bit of a music nerd.
Yes.
It's a lot of
fan.
or a Beatles fan. It was
Yes.
a lot of fun, and you learn all these interesting little behind the scenes facts. So we have another one scheduled for when is it?
November 11th?
No. Oh well, another Beatles one for next
Oh.
season.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Not till next season.
Correct.
Okay.
So that was the Beatles film. Then we had Andre, the Seal Who Came Home, which everyone just loves. And this is a bit of a tradition with us. So that one, there was about 250 people.
Good.
The cost was $0. And we took in $192 in donations. So both movies combined, we netted a positive of $89. And I think they functioned really well for what they were intended, which was just to have a place where families could come and folks could come. And so that was good. So the next one is one we're kind of excited about, and that is on November 11th, Armistice Day / Veterans Day. And it's a documentary basically called They Shall Not Grow Old. And it was made by
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson, thank you. And it's a lot of historic original film stock that has been digitized and colorized, and it makes it
It's,
You can speak
it's
to it,
black
'cause
and white silent film from World War I.
Wow.
And what they've done, what Peter Jackson did is he colorized it, enlarged it, made it, in some cases, I actually saw it in 3D, which was amazing. And they also hired many, many lip readers to read the lips of the soldiers and their speaking, and then matched where they were from, their units, with accents people put in the region. And one of the most amazing ones is there is a captain giving the whole squad a whole speech about what's coming up. And they have the whole speech because they found it written down. And they matched it. And it's extraordinary. It's just, it's extraordinary, it's interesting, it's sad, it's amazing.
It's history.
Yeah. And in a way that you just don't get to see it. It's just stunning the way.
Have you talked to Quarry Hill and Bartlett Woods and places like that?
Dagny, I think, has, but,
Just saying that might be a,
oh, that's a great idea.
What is?
Senior facilities, maybe reach out to see if some folks from like
Yes.
Quarry Hill and,
Yes, yes, yes.
that's a great idea.
Oh, yes, bust them in.
Yep.
Oh,
So
yes.
that, we're really gonna spread
Definitely.
the word, and I hope it's well attended, because
Oh,
I think it's
gosh,
gonna be
yes.
wonderful.
Excellent
what time of
idea.
day are we doing that, do you know?
We're doing that, 7 PM.
Okay.
So that's community thank you films so far. Another event we had was Preposterous, the Pocket Circus. This is the Happenstance Theater from the DC area. These folks did Pino and Augustine last Winterfest. And they're really fun and they're great to work with. And we were able to get them on a door split because they were passing by to do other things. So it was kind of no risk for us, which was great. And we had about 220 people, which I was really pleased. 'Cause
Can I make a
summer's hard.
suggestion?
Yeah.
Your microphone needs to be a lot closer, because I've gotten yelled at
Oh, I don't
from
want that.
not having it closer.
Okay. So we did a door split. I think it was a 60-40 split, 60 for them, 40 for us. And our gross income was $1,523, which we split, and after all our expenses and everything, we made $368, which is fine, although our reason for doing it wasn't about the money, it was about providing, we're trying to do more and more family programming, and this seemed like a good fit.
Yeah.
So the actors had a blast, the audience had a wonderful time. We're gonna try and do it again next year.
Yep.
We'll see. So there was that. We also had a Bob Marley show, which was really interesting to me. This was in August, and his manager called me, I don't know, a couple months earlier and said, we have 2 shows at the Strand. Actually, not a couple months, less than that. 2 shows at the Strand, and they've both sold out. I want to add a 3rd show. The Strand won't do it. Can I add a show in your place? We said, yeah, sure. And he sold that out. So Bob Marley sold out 3 shows in
Wow.
one night in the Mid-Coast, which
Good
I
grief.
thought was really something. So it was interesting for us because we tried something new.
Now, was this the Bob Marley from Jamaica that came back to life? Because I can understand it if
This
it
is
were.
the live one from Maine. So it was general admission, and so you always have, people want to get in there and grab good seats. So it's a bit of an ongoing experiment, how best to deal with crowds for that. And so what we typically do is we line people up on half the staircase, and in this case, they were lined up all down the front and almost to about here on Washington Street. But in the past, it worked in such a way that if you had your ticket, you stood on the right side of the stairs, and if you had to pick up your ticket, you would go up the left side, get your ticket, go back and get at the back of the line. And it works, and it makes sense, but it's a little clunky, and for some folks, it's a lot of movement. So what we tried that worked really well was we just lined everybody up, and then Dagny took all the will call, the list of people who had tickets to pick up, and tickets, and just worked the line. Just started going down the line saying, do you have
Right.
tickets? Great. Do
Great
you
idea.
need tickets? What's your
Good
name?
show.
Check it off. And we had a second person ready to help. and we didn't need it.
Good, good.
I went out to see how it was going, and she was at, 15 minutes later, she was at the
Busy,
end of the
busy.
line.
Yeah.
And how long before was it?
It was a
That they
half-
were lined up, half an hour?
Half hour, so
Yeah.
the, doors opened at 4, and Dagny started right at 4 o'clock, and then we opened the box office at 4:30, because we were able to open the, doors to the theater then. So we did, box office will call at that point in time, but I have to say, it was incredibly smooth, but it was also smooth because so many of those people had printed their tickets or had their tickets on their phones. So
Right.
that made it a lot easier. But I do think it's something that we should,
We're gonna do it again this Saturday, so, it worked pretty well. And, I think it streamlined it a little bit. So that was a great show. And that leads me to my last thing, which was the $1 water experiment.
Oh, yeah.
So-
How'd that go?
The reason we did it was typically we would have concessions, but because it was an early show, it was a 5 o'clock show, and because it's general admission, so people are gonna zip in and claim their seats, and because there was no intermission, I think it would have been a terrible night for Josh at 40 Paper, because no one would have gone in there.
Yeah.
So we tried this experiment, we said, you know what, we'll sell bottles of water for $1, they can take them in. And our staffing was such that we didn't really have enough bodies to have someone selling it. So we said, you know what, let's just do honor system and see what happens. So these bottles, which by the way, these are here for you, would anyone like water?
Yes, please.
So these are the ones we got,
Thank you.
and our cost, anyone else? Our cost was like 26 cents a piece. Mainly because the people we ordered it from screwed up. We bought the bargain brand and they sent us Poland Springs and charged us the same. So we said, okay. So, we put out 2 stations with a sign that said $1, your donation goes to the Community Arts Fund. 165 bottles were consumed. 126 were actually paid for. So there was a little bit of shrinkage, as we say in the retail business. We still made $80, $84.39. So part of the problem, I think, was communication. I don't think it was quite as obvious as it could have been that we expected people to buy them. And I could have done a better job when I did my little stage thing. I got up just to say, please, everybody, fill in seats. And then I said, we have water in the back and it's $1. I think I probably could have been more clear. And some people just had a bad intent. Some people just took them.
I think,
I think
when you say
also-
donation as well, some people think, well, I don't have the money, I don't have
Right,
$1. It's donate later,
Right.
right?
So I
Donation
think
is the
there
wrong
was a-
word.
There was a clarity issue, and that was my fault. But I think, I would try it again, learning, seeing what we've learned.
Also, people don't carry cash,
Well, there's that too.
right? So like, maybe they'll come back and they'll stick a 5 in the next time.
That's what
Yeah,
I,
maybe.
oh, I see, yeah.
Make up
And
for
that
it.
was sort of the thing. When I did my little stage speech, I thanked everybody who paid and reminded them that the sale of the bottles was to help the Arts Fund. And,
Right.
Oh, that's good.
some
yeah.
folks will do the right thing and you kind of let it go. So that is what has happened since we last spoke. And now I just want to tell you a few things about what's coming up. And I have happy news that's only about a half hour old. Roger McGuinn is sold out,
Yeah.
which I'm really grateful for and
Yes,
and
yes,
very
yes.
happy. So that just happened today, which is great because that gives us a little time to kind of put the word out. We are going to send out an emailing to everyone who bought tickets tomorrow to tell them how the line's going to work, that we're going to line up, and then we're going to go down the line for will call. But we also have to tell them some things that Roger McGuinn and his wife Camilla want us to tell people, because they're very particular about how things are done.
Okay.
He does not come out after the show. He does not do autographs. He doesn't do anything. He pre-autographs merch to be sold. He really doesn't want to interact with people once the show's over. He likes to stay very insulated. No one can bring a guitar in.
Right.
And the reason for that is, I guess, at one point in the past, someone came in with a guitar case and said, oh, I just want Roger McGuinn to sign my guitar. It was an empty case. They put one of his guitars in it. Off they went. So that has made them very cautious.
Wow.
So we have to keep all the exterior doors locked at all times, it's really, so we're gonna just let folks know that, there will be autographed merch, but he won't be signing it for you, and you can't bring any cases in and stuff like that. But we're very excited. It's gonna be a great show. It really worked out as we had hoped, and that's gratifying. So there's that. Next up, we have SIF, which is wonderful as always. Next up for us is the 20th of September, One Night in Memphis, which I think is gonna be a blast. We have some work to do to sell it because a lot of our attention's been on Roger McGuinn, so now we gotta pivot and really put the word out. We're gonna have some print ads and some radio ads and so forth. So I'm confident we can do well with that, I think.
I love your postings, by the way, those are.
Oh,
so
good, thank
The
you.
little guys and,
Little Jim.
little thing, yeah.
Then the next show for us is a Maine Made Music Night. It's gonna be David Mallet, who is very beloved, I think, in Maine.
Very much so in this area in particular.
And opening up is a young woman named Caroline Cotter, who's a singer-songwriter out of the Portland area. She looks great. Then we'll have Lunasa, the Irish Christmas again.
What's the date on Luna's Day?
The second weekend in December, so it was the 9th last year.
14th, is that a Saturday? night?
14th is Lunasa. And so things I'm working on, Winterfest, I still am trying to nail down. The plan as it stands was possibly trying a film for Wednesday night, and for the band, I'm still looking at Rustic Overtones. It's not carved in stone, but they are at the top of the list so far. Next up is something we're working on. It's a sort of a mini festival in March, featuring a bunch of bands from the north of us. There's something called the Arustacoustic Festival, which has gone on for 10 years in New Sweden, Maine. And it's really well done and well attended, and the guy who organizes it, we hooked up with him, and he's gonna boil it down and bring a little version of it here in March
Wow.
as a cooperative co-production, so we're gonna try that. Just talked to the Wayfinder School, our good friends. In years past, they did Dancing with the Local Stars, which was a show everybody loved and was an incredible pain to put on. Oh, man. It was the
Rehearsals.
Sausage Factory thing. Everyone in the audience said it wasn't that wonderful, and backstage, it's like, oh, thank God, that's over. Oh, yeah, microphones. Just because there were so many moving parts and so much stuff to orchestrate, it was a ton of work. What they're doing this time, which I'm excited about, is they are doing a Moth-style storytelling show with both people who are experienced at it and students from the Wayfinder
That's
School.
great.
Sort of
What a
mixed
great
together.
idea.
Which I think is a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be in March also. I am, and again, this is sort of on the drawing board, looking at the Oshimas perhaps for a Maine Made Music concert in April. I would love to get them in.
They had a couple conversations with their manager, and I know it was suggested they do the show.
Oh, good. You have an inside line to the manager?
I do. And they weren't sure that Push was going to be able to make it. And they had a suggestion that Halcyon, it's a string quartet that they work with, and some of the people on the string quartet actually play with them sometimes, or at least one of the people. So it'd be an interesting evening. I know they just played in Rockland. They had a free show for the library and they said really good attendance, and so that went real well. So they're pretty excited about it, I think, and they think they can do real well.
Yeah, I think that would be a really great sort of feel the local love kind of night. Another thing I'm happy about is there's a program called Women's Work. It's a dance program that's done once a year with some very talented local choreographers and dancers, and it's going to be at the Camden Opera House this coming year in 2020, in August.
So like Kia and
It's Shayna
Gretchen.
Bloomstein.
Oh, yeah,
and-
Shayna. I love Shayna's work.
I don't actually,
They're all
I
good.
sort of know of the people who are in it. I'm not familiar with their work necessarily, but it's really great quality and good variety, and
Great.
and I just like the feel of it. I think it's a good thing to support. So we made it work with them. And my last thing to say is, and this I thank Beth for her guidance on, Lynn Dilly's The Magic of Lynn is coming back in 2020 in November. She is an illusionist who does like big stage illusions, big sort of spinning props, the sort of cut people in half and open the box thing.
Oh, yes.
I didn't see it last time, but you did,
I thought it was very good.
And when is it?
in November 2020, so a year from this November.
Oh.
It's a little bit in the
If
future.
I'm still alive, I'll go.
Jeez, I hope so. Please do.
Got any-
On you.
Please stay alive for that long, at
Hey,
least.
you have plans you're not telling us
Hard that
about?
maintenance.
travel plans?
And not the river Styx kind. So that is sort of things that are on the back burner and that we're working on. And I think that's it for me.
Just because I'm a broken record,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jazz in June 2020, June 11th through the 14th,
Yes, yes.
we're working on, so.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Blue Cafe is not on here.
that is true. I can tell you a quick little bit about the Blue Cafe. For the rest of this year, we have Mariana Filippi, composer and accordionist, in September, who I actually just did a project with for this Maine-wide spoken word and music sort of recording.
She's wonderful.
Date, what date?
Yes. you know that for
27th,
sure.
which is actually her birthday, so we should
Wow.
be nice to her next time. So that's September. October is Hiroya Sakamoto, who I'm really psyched about. He is a really kind of world-class acoustic guitar player, not exactly a classical player, but an acoustic player. He's Berkeley trained, he's touring, and he's going by
Date?
25th.
Month?
October
Sorry, thank you.
2019.
And that's in the Blue Cafe?
That's the Blue Cafe. And our final Blue Cafe for the year is a group called Diado. And there's a family or a series of families around here, the Stanchioffs. I don't know if we know them. One of them, Nadezhda, who I know because she used to go to Ashwood, where my wife Susan worked when we first moved here. I was in a conversation with her and she said, "Oh, my cousin has this great band." And they're really great. Well, they're coming back for Thanksgiving. So they're going to be here on the 29th, which is the day after Thanksgiving,
That's great.
for the Blue Cafe.
That'll be great.
And, they're doing world tour stuff. So
Great.
we've looked into getting some interesting and high-profile folks there. For next year, I'll tell you a little bit about what I know. Nothing in January, because we hope to be building a new bathroom. Our grand reopening in February is a group called Cold Chocolate. They're from Boston. They're a duo, drums and guitar, and they both sing, and they're really good. So that's on 14th.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
March, we're looking at bringing back Wayne Delano in a sort of Jazz in June sponsored encore of his last show, which was packed and wonderful.
He's got a huge fan club.
And he's so great in that space. That's the 27th. April, there's a guy named Garrett Susi, and he was in a band called Tree by Leaf back
Oh,
in the day.
yeah, I loved them.
He does stuff with his wife. And the last time I saw them, they were at SIF last year, I think.
Oh,
And they were so good. I mean,
what does
they
he
s-
play?
He sings and plays guitar and she sings, and they sing
Nice.
beautifully. It's really haunting. So they're gonna do that in April. May, we're hoping that we're leaving that for the moment sort of open in case there's another Moms Tell All style show.
That was so
There
fun.
has to be.
And
Yeah.
then June is
Should
going
be
to be
annual,
something
huh?
for Jazz in June, and we have some ideas, but it's still a bit fluid. And that's as far as I've gotten. I'm still kind of reaching out and keeping my eyes open, but I haven't talk to anybody beyond June 2020.
That's pretty
So that's-
amazing.
Yay,
Cafe.
exciting.
You can't book anybody for Moms Speak Out, what was it? Moms
Hello.
I'm still off.
Tell All. Then just book it and run last year's film, because I would watch it again,
Yeah,
the whole thing.
yeah.
I was looking at it the other day because Arthur, our longtime custodian, just had an operation, the nature of which means he's supposed to sit around for a while. And he was really like, oh, I'm so bored, because he's an active guy.
Yeah.
And so I sent him the Penn Bay pilot link, which has every film. And in so doing, I sampled a few of them again, and I was just astonished at how good they are.
Yeah.
They were so funny and so artfully done.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it's
I was so
different.
blown away. I expected just like sort of regular people who might be nervous in front of a crowd and like, not even a little.
No, those were amazing women.
That was a,
Amazing
that was a
women.
night that
It
will
was a-
live in infamy.
great night.
Forever, so, yeah. So I believe the next thing is actually
Renee.
Renee.
Is it?
Who might like to speak about
Renee
the
is
Community
shaking the
Arts
trees,
Fund.
man. She's out there shaking the trees, bringing in the money. You rock it.
Bushes,
You are
Well, I
rocking,
must say, my
Renee.
dear, I do stop people in the street and say, you've got to go and see this, you've got to go and see, yes. And of course, dogs help, you see, because I talk to the dogs first, and then I start talking to the visitors or whoever. And anyhow, I'm terribly pleased to see the flower urns outside the Opera House entrance, blooming away, because I initiated them in 2014.
Nice, well
Yes, I
done.
did. Yes, my dears, so the appeal letters I sent out earlier this year have netted $965, and I am presenting David with a cheque for 35 from me to bring it up to around 1,000.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
Oh, you're
Oh,
welcome,
that's
my
great.
dear. So anyhow, I have to say the feedback that I get for the Blue Cafe is very positive.
Oh, good.
Very, which is so good to hear. Yes, absolutely. And I do want to, of course, congratulate Juniper on getting all those lights. That is so good.
Yep,
Yeah,
Yes, because we needed them. We did.
yeah.
And this is going
I
to show-
agree.
Lovely, lovely. So, my dears, that's really me in a nutshell.
Very good.
That's not really you in a nutshell.
No,
But that's okay.
hardly.
I mean, we know there's so much more.
Oh, but I'm not talking.
Yeah,
Thank you so much
And
for
amazing.
all of your work on that. That is just
Very well.
fantastic.
That's a
glad
huge
it-
help.
Yeah.
I'm glad
That's
it
what
got a
allows
bit
us to
in.
do the free
Yeah.
movies and allows us to do Free Cafe with no admission, and so that's
Right.
wonderful.
Right, good show.
Thank you so much for
You're
that.
very welcome. Pleasure.
Tech updates.
Well, I'm gonna just jump right on what Renee was talking about. Juniper has been working hard and, you know, she is such a great, resource for us. She just installed, cyc lights, which
She
are.
literally installed them herself?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it gets
Oh,
better.
crumbs.
You know, in the back of the stage, if you look now, there's something called a cyclorama. It's a big white scrim. And the main purpose of that is you hit it with colored light, and so the backdrop of the stage turns colors. And in the old
Lovely.
days, we had all these big lights with gels on them.
Yeah.
So you'd have a red light and a blue light, and you could
Yeah.
mix them and get purple, but it was kind of clunky. And these lights had 1,000-watt incandescent bulbs that looked like they come from a joke store. They were this big. And they made noise when you dimmed them. They would hum in the sound system. So these have all been replaced, starting our new budget year, with LED strip lights, which run the length of the cyc and can literally give you any color in the spectrum, which is awesome. And I mean, the dance folks are gonna be so happy.
Yeah.
But in order to do this, she had to move one of the pipes to mount it on. And she went up in the attic with a grinder and cut holes in the ceiling, and she bought the head blocks, the pulleys. And she did it all herself. I mean, I don't know what that would have cost us to hire someone to do that.
Yeah.
But she really loves the project, and so she just did it. She just made it work.
Great.
So now our stage, you know, the quality of what we can do with the stage is just much better than it's ever been. We also have LED, 12 of them, washes for the whole front of the stage. So our ability to really do moody lighting has jumped way up, and the
great.
credit all goes to her. So she's been doing great. However, just in the interest of fairness, I gotta say Dagny has likewise been doing great, not in a tech way, but she's also been a great addition. She has wrapped
She's
her
full
arms
of
around
this,
the box
yeah,
office and
energy.
has figured it out. The whole new ticketing system, she has made it her own, which, by the way, includes no-fee ticketing, which is, we haven't really made a big noise about that, but that's gonna be part of our push for One Night in Memphis, is that
Oh, great.
at this point, there's now no fees in the tickets.
That's great.
That is great.
Which is rare. I mean, most of the venues around,
And
there's
people
some
hate it.
kind of fee. And even though you know it's the cost of doing business,
Yep.
our hope is that this will just be one more reason to come here and one more reason to, if you're on the fence about buying that ticket, oh, buy it. So, so that's the tech information. Juniper has been really going great guns, and the only other thing I will say is that I am still working on the building project with Chris Fasselt, our architect, and that is the window repair, the gutter repair, and the third floor bathroom. Third floor bathroom, the plan is pretty much ready to go, because it was really kind of ready to go before we got the blessing of the select board and voters and budget committee.
Okay.
But
Good show.
that we're gonna do in January, and I'm gonna meet sometime, probably beginning of next week with Chris, and start really moving forward on all the exterior stuff, which luckily, most of it can be done, it's not really seasonal these days. They can kind of do the work whenever, so. So I will keep you posted as that goes. Not a lot to tell yet, it's still sort of in the planning stage.
One more tech thing, one of my favorite things to do is to bug Juniper. And so my latest bug for her was to say, okay, what budget do you want for tech improvements for next year? And she's coming up with a list, and I've already gone to our town manager and said, this is how much money I think the Opera House Committee or the Opera House could use next year to increase it, and
And thank you
things,
for that.
you know,
That's great.
continue to work on improving and getting the things we
Yeah,
need.
it would be great. There's some equipment that would be a part of that, that would mean we could stop renting every time we have a big show, which would be great. And just and this has always been your point, I think, it's just one more reason to come here, either as a renter or as an audience member, to just get raise the bar that much more. So, thank you for your support with that.
Yes.
I have to depart.
Peter, thank you for coming.
I'll see you in a month.
Before,
See if you.
Adios.
Hi, Peter.
You were up on the roof earlier, too. Is there anything that could happen up there? Or is that just?
in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just saw little tables out there and everything. I mean, and I don't even know.
Sadly, I think that would be a very long ways away.
Yeah.
Right now, you can get up there for maintenance reasons.
Okay.
And Dagny, bless her heart, is a compulsive picture taker. She can't help herself. She worked as a reporter for
Right.
so
Yes, that's
long.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that
right.
now, anytime she sees, it's like, whoop.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
like, there went that secret.
Okay, yeah, right. And there looked like there were no edges. I mean.
There are no
You
edges.
could go, boom.
Well, if you were to look at it in profile, it's a mansard roof on the sides and then a flat top. So it's not that it's a sheer drop off, it slants, and that's where the slate.
Roll before
It's
you
a
fall.
slow roll
Basically,
down.
You get to slide and get in some speed to really move
You
off.
can grab onto the snow fence.
Right, okay.
I mean, would it be
Scary.
something? It would.
It would be.
Oh, my
scary,
God.
To
Yeah,
make it code compliant, I think we're,
I know.
Yeah, that's a
I
long
doubt it
ways
will.
off.
because you know, yeah. Neat idea, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the next thing on our
Okay,
agenda
I think
is,
we're on to Matt, Jazz in June.
Okay, this is not finished, so I'm not even gonna pass it around, but we borrowed liberally from the community donation thing, which is be a sponsor for Jazz in June, lots of pictures,
yes,
schedule, Dave will recognize that. Looking for $20,000 in sponsorships, patrons, and donations, so we've got a lot of work to do. Our first meeting, well, our first sort of slightly expanded meeting is September 5th in the Tucker Room at 5:30. Right now, Dave and I have our hands full with a number of artists. We're probably going to go out after the the Brubeck brothers, who are doing the 50th anniversary of Dave Brubeck's famous album. And it looks pretty good. We haven't booked them yet. And I say we have a number of the Benny Green Trio. We have a number of artists that Dave has reached out to, and we have kind of put our heads together on. I would say for the 12 slots we probably have 50 artists that are interested in playing. So, that means some people are going to be disappointed, especially some of the local folks, because I don't want to have it just be a
Local.
carbon copy of last year. I want new stuff. So, talking to some gypsy jazz people, a wonderful female sax player from the Boston area.
Oh, great.
Plays with Wynton Marsalis.
Great.
We're going to talk to youth arts about having an educational component to it, even though it's the end of the school year. We think that might work. I talked to Nancy over at the high school. I've met with the lady Julia Pierce, who's the new person at the library, who's going to put together something for that Sunday afternoon in the amphitheater, hopefully. She's very enthusiastic. So, yeah, a lot of positive stuff. As always, we need volunteers and we need money. The artist part's sort of the easy part, as long as we can afford to pay for it. But we think the Brubeck brothers will really fill the. We're going to have 2 feature concerts this year. We're going to have a Friday night concert and a Saturday night concert. 2 acts each night as opposed to the 3 that we squeezed in on Saturday night. As Dave mentioned, we're talking about having an early Blue Cafe on the Friday night with a bit of a party on the 3rd floor, and then the concert, that Friday night concert would follow. And different ticket prices, cheaper on Friday than Saturday.
Yes.
Depending on the artist we book, obviously, because we do want to break even or make money this year. And I think that's it for now. It's rolling. A lot of positive feedback from people.
Okay, so you want us September the 5th, did you say?
September the 5th at 5:30 in the Tucker Room.
5:30 Tucker Room. And then we can all see what
Would be
we can
great.
do.
This year, we're going to try to put together some committees. So we're going to have a promotions committee. We're going to have somebody in charge of the hub where the information booth was, so that we can spread the joy around a little bit.
Right.
And also, so you don't have to be there all the
Well,
time.
that's the joy we want to spread. Absolutely.
And the volunteers kind of thing, does that cover a gamut of places and?
Yeah, I mean, last year, it's typically selling merchandise both a month before at the farmer's market and other events. It is Dave sort of staffs the venue here with his normal volunteer troupe. But Snowball will need volunteers both for the dance, which we're looking at on Thursday night, as well as the Saturday afternoon show. This year, we know that Summer Solstice in Rockland is a week later, so they won't be competing with us.
That's good.
We're hoping that Johnny Hoy and the Bluefish just don't come back to the Blue Goose.
Yeah.
And we're certainly, let the word out for the Strand and other places that we're going to do it again, and hopefully they'll give us some little more space than they did last year, which will be helpful in selling tickets and so on. So that's where we're at.
Okay,
Good.
sounds good.
With 10 months to
getting
go.
excited
Not that I'm
already.
counting down, but I am counting down.
Right, good show.
Any new business that anybody would like to talk about? Yes.
I think it's worthwhile, I had some Roger McGuinn sold out. What were ticket prices for Roger McGuinn?
30 in advance, 35 at the door, which was a non-issue, because there's,
So it's worth, not necessarily tonight, but exploring why it sold out and how we can have a couple more of those shows a year that sell out. I know the Strand, every time I try to go to a show at the Strand, I look on Monday and there's tickets, and then by the time I get around to it, they're sold out. And it's a smaller venue, obviously, and so on. But I think just as that's pretty awesome that Roger McGuinn sold out. That's 485 tickets at $30 a pop. That's great.
It's also-
Traditionally, I'm sorry, traditionally, do we sell out that weekend?
We have, not every single time, but, you know, Noel Paul Stuckey, which was probably 4 years ago, I think did once. I think Peter Yarrow did once. Jonathan Edwards did not. And that was last year, I think, was Jonathan Edwards.
Which is weird.
He did well, but just not a sellout.
He's just not in the same league as the others.
Nope, I don't think he just has quite the same loyal audience, which, you know, we certainly got that with Noel Paul Stuckey. He's a real sort of hero in the area. Peter Yarrow, I think, is just a part of like everybody's childhood and their kids' childhood. And Roger McGuinn, I think, has sort of deep fan base of people who follow him for a host of reasons, whether it's the Byrds or solo stuff or the stuff he's done with Dylan. So, not every time, but we've had pretty good success with that. And I guess if I may just follow up on that, we were having a discussion because I was kind of struggling with finding someone for next year. And I was floating the what if. It's like, well, what if we tried something different? What if we didn't have a sort of baby boomer singer-songwriter? Just because the amount of these folks who are available, that number's dwindling. So,
Right?
but we didn't really have to go there because we were able to pull out our first choice, which was Tom Rush. So Tom Rush is now on the books for Windjammer Festival 2020. And I think he's in the same league. I think he'll do really well.
Yeah.
I think he has a loyal following, and so fingers crossed, we're gonna.
And he hasn't
hope-
played in this area for a long time that I'm aware of. Booth perhaps, but not,
He plays now and again at Booth Bay Opera House, and in
Yeah, but-
fact, for us to get him
yeah, but not at the Strand. He hasn't been up
out
in
of
this
the
area.
Strand. And he has been at places like Stone Mountain Arts Center.
Yeah.
So just on the periphery of what I think of as kind of our territory. So that's in our favor. We were able to get him, partly because he had some corporate gig around here that coincided. So it made it worth their while, because we were trying to negotiate a little less than their asking price.
And we
'Cause-
did, we got that.
And we succeeded. So it all worked out, for which I'm grateful. But
Who sent us the information on the Waterville Opera House? Somebody sent it through. And I did well, then they were saying, well, geez, look, they get Graham Nash, and the lineup was very impressive. They have 850 seats, so it kind of is how you can get those guys, you know.
I think Peter did.
Oh, maybe it was, yes, it was
I
Peter.
think Peter
It was
said,
Peter.
you might find this interesting. He's on their mailing list. And, you know, they have a different model. They have a different sort of demographic area, what with Colby and that, and they are a bigger venue. So they operate a little differently than we do. But it was really interesting to see the sorts of things they were
I'm going to
getting.
go up to a show this fall just to kind of get a lay of that land. I have a friend who runs a place in Ridgefield, Connecticut that's similar, 850 seats, and books very similar to what they book. But it's interesting because I want, you know, it's a production company that does the shows.
It's a guy.
It's a guy. I wondered if he
Eric.
wants to rent from us occasionally.
Oh, he has.
Oh, he has. Okay.
Historically.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever noticed behind my desk, there's a Taj Mahal poster.
Yeah.
That was him.
Oh, so
He was
good.
also involved in bringing Lake Street Dive here, through a kind of a partnership with State
Street.
State
Theater.
Theater.
Right, yeah.
His name is Eric Thompson. He's a good guy, and every now and again, he will
Okay, good.
get out of his area and book something here, and I would certainly welcome him to do that.
Okay.
Actually, I'll share one more thing if I may. And this is just the start of a conversation I was having with Juniper, and then it'll be the start of a conversation with everybody here. I was saying to her, I was working on 2020 and booking and stuff, and I was sort of laughing at myself and saying, you know, I got the job, and I was idealistic and really experimental, and I, you know, hired James Judd and the Birds of Chicago and Ranky Tanky, and they were not great shows for us as far as sales and the financial end. in the case of Birds of Chicago and Ranky Tanky, I think they were great shows for us, content-wise. I think everyone left those shows saying, that's one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Yep.
So, but I was laughing because I said, did those shows, and kind of smarting from that, I retreated a little bit and booked more,
Traditional.
a little bit more mainstream stuff. And I thought, I want to kind of swing back a little bit and not let go of interesting, chancy shows. I want to be more deliberate than I've been in the past and reduce our risk. But I thought, for all the struggle to sell them and whatever disappointment I might have felt, they were great shows.
Is there,
Yeah, yeah.
one of the things about both the groups, once they played here, you usually more people will come the second time, because, wow, friends will go talk, you gotta see these guys. And Ranky Tanky just had some huge success in Europe or something.
Yep, and they just released a second record, which
Right.
is getting all sorts of great feedback. I'd love to get Ranky Tanky back. Of the two, I thought they were just one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Well, they sounded so incredible here.
Is there a way, although with all that stuff going on, the price is probably going up, not?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's not gonna happen, and we got along famously with them, and they loved the room. And, conversationally, they were like, oh, we'd love to come back. What that means in the real world, I don't know, but I wouldn't certainly not rule it out.
Did you have somebody else in mind that you were thinking about?
Well, I look at a lot of stuff because I'm on every agent's mailing list, so I get a lot of stuff. And a lot of it you can kind of say, nah, at a glance, you can kind of tell it's not a good fit. But a lot of it I look at, and if it really intrigues me, I'll go watch some videos and stuff. And every now and then I'll get something, I'll think, oh, this looks great. There's this band called, I don't even know how it's pronounced, Delgrès, it may be Delgrès. They're a three-piece band. Their lead singer is from French Guiana. And they are this funky, swampy, I think they're based in New Orleans now.
Okay.
But it's a drummer, a sousaphone player, and a guy who plays slide dobro.
Wow.
And sings everything in French.
Oh, gosh, yes.
And they're fabulous.
I like the sound
At
of
least
that.
to me. So this is the little mental tug of war I have. I think, wow, I think these guys are great. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But will it? Should we?
Does it
should
work
we?
in the area? Is
Yeah.
it good for the opera house? Will people come? Can you sell it? Can you,
That's right.
can you like not lose
Yeah.
any more money than you can help? Because I think for certain shows, it's okay to take a risk and say, you know what? We can sell out with Roger McGuinn, and that allows us to take a chance on something new.
Definitely.
idea.
Yeah.
And so it's okay. Not every show has to like
Yeah.
Right,
be
right,
be a big winner,
right.
but you want people to come. So you want to make sure you can find a
And
way
if
to
you
do
go
that.
online like you did to hear them, a little bit of them, you get a sense of whether you want to come or not. I think that would be a good thing to
Yep.
have too, yeah.
Yeah, we've discovered, and this is something I think you've been saying for a long time, video is, of things you see online, it's better than still pictures, it's better than text.
Totally,
It's the thing
yeah.
that really kind of grabs your
Especially
attention.
with music, you want to hear it. Yeah, right.
So I will certainly share with you what I'm thinking about, and it depends on whether or not they come to our area. I mean, there's a couple of variables. But
Right.
I was sort of just saying this out loud, note to self, I don't want to let go of the slightly chancy things. I want the pendulum to go a little bit back towards the middle and say, okay, you balance the sort of more mainstream things with the interesting and
Yeah.
left to center
Well, I
things.
think
I want that too.
the operational thing is, this is a not-for-profit organization. So you don't have to make money
Right.
if you can just make enough money in Roger to bring
keep
back
it
Ranky
going.
Tanky and stuff.
Right, and I feel really fortunate that the leadership at the moment, the select board and Audra, are being super supportive to us
right.
by sort of welcoming that philosophy. And saying, if at the end of the year you can be in the black, great. If you can bring good things to town, great. And that gives us a lot of room to work with.
Indeed it
And
does.
and that makes my job way easier
Oh, yes.
than if people had a different philosophy.
Yes, indeed.
Plus the more people that you can bring in from the community, the more opportunity they're gonna come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
for another
Want to
show.
support.
Yeah.
For another show,
Yeah.
or another event, or
And
another,
it just feels like it's a big part of what we're supposed to do, which is sort of connect people.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a
Well,
win-win.
it's nice to have variety to connect them with too. So
Right.
to have the Rinky Tankies and have the Birds of Chicago shows, that's always great. Even
Yep.
when you think about happenstance, that was sort of a random, was happenstance. Anyway, but those sort of random things are, I think, really good. I think
Yep.
it's nice
It's
to have
important.
that variety here.
And as an audience, we want that too.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right, definitely. Yeah.
Anything else anybody would like to say?
David did a very good speech today at the Camden Rotary. And one slide he showed, this is just.
Got free
total-
lunch.
should-
I missed that. What did you say?
I got a free lunch.
Oh, good.
There was a slide from early on in the late 1800s with a marquee in front of the Camden Opera House,
Here, Kim.
Wow.
which
I'd
we've
love
never
to
been
see
able to
that.
do, and if it's
Interesting.
historical, you should check that slide. I'm pretty
Landmark
sure there was
stuff.
some.
Oh, definitely.
Landmark.
I know the slide of which you
I've
speak.
never seen that before.
It's actually 1912, I
Oh,
think,
my dear.
because there's a mix of cars and horse and carriages on the street, and there's a trolley line going down the street. But yeah, there was I think it was cast iron that came out, from, at a right angle to the
Right.
facade,
Oh, so a little bump out?
and it said Camden Opera House.
Over the years, we've talked about the
Let's
idea
do
that
it,
it would
yeah.
be cool to have it, and we said, oh, they'll never let it happen, but
Gotta go to the sign.
we're on the historic register for
That's
crying
right,
out
landmark
loud.
stuff.
We should
We
be
can do that.
Make
recreating.
it look like the landmark it was in 1912.
Yeah,
There you go.
And I think, and we
restoration.
can talk about this more,
Yeah,
but I think that is probably the guidance we will get from the Historic Resources Committee and so forth, is that,
Make it look
you know,
like that.
either make it true to its original thing, or do something totally different, don't go halfway.
Right.
So don't do the original thing, but put lights in it, it's like, nope, if the original one didn't have lights, then that's what you do. Or, that's my guess, but I mean, the way we find out is to
Present it.
broach the subject.
Was it like a soft panel, like light behind it kind of thing?
I think it was. And this is
Just
kind of guesswork
illuminated?
for me.
Well,
It looked like the sort of
1912,
thing
too.
where the lettering was cut out, and it had sort of a frosted glass behind it and maybe light
Very
inside.
Art Deco-ish.
That's
probably.
my take on it. Thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Don't take it personally.
Okay, we won't.
Did you turn us off?
No, I'll,
Okay.
Yeah, just
Got it.
have to hit that little red.
I know how to, I've done it many times now.
Okay, thanks.
good night.
Good night.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting thing. It
Fun idea?
is a fun idea, and, yeah, it's definitely worth, talking about some more and thinking about.
Do these things really work?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Not in the room, but at home. In other words, it doesn't make you louder here, but it's all being streamed so people at home can watch it on their computers.
We're on TV right now, Renee.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't seek my permission.
I'm sorry.
I should think
But you
so.
look
I mean,
fantastic.
well, I hope so.
I'm more
It does make
concerned
you
if
feel
they've
bad.
just got, like a spot
Tidy-
on my
tidy
face.
it up
a
I'm
little
really
bit.
hoping for that. Just to
Yeah,
be
we're
like-
gonna have to
Microphone
do
as well.
makeup now.
I know, I'm gonna need to.
Makeup?
I'll do next time.
budget that in.
Exactly. Build in some extra time to fix this, a lot of extra time.
So this is secretly recording me, is it?
Well, not now.
Not now.
No, I know, I turned it off.
Figured out the button.
So if we're,
I just wanted to
Yes, yes.
volunteer to be the secretary.
Oh, great.
Yay!
For that.
are you okay?
Notes.
Oh, okay.
If I have your template,
Totally.
you could send me the streaming so I
I
can
already
double
thought you
check.
Thank you so much, that's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Thank you, Kathy.
That's a wonderful help.
Yes.
I was
thank you.
feeling guilty, so I'm
Thank you.
so happy.
No, you're very welcome. I just, when I finally got through the weeds of my summer productions, I realized.
Thank you, that's a big help.
The streaming is actually, if you go to the town website, there's just a link
Ah.
right on the homepage.
Awesome.
And then there'll be a sort of a panel for every
Do you
meeting.
mind if I like shoot you the rough draft for you to look over before
that'd be
it gets
wonderful.
sent out?
You can take out all
And
that.
if there is a place you didn't quite catch it, you can go to the stream and look
That's
at
what
it.
I was thinking.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
good.
And
If
there,
only there was a way to edit out some of the things I said.
Right.
Life doesn't work that way,
Does
Beth.
not, sadly. Sadly, does
Perpetuity.
not. Does not. Thank you so much, guys, for
Thank you,
coming out
everybody.
tonight. It was great to see everybody.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, it was
Next meeting?
exciting.
Next meeting will be, September. I'm gonna imagine a Tuesday, and I'm gonna say it's the last Tuesday in September. The 24th,
24th.
Tuesday, the
Very good.
24th.
Exactly. Good
Here.
man, Matt Brown.
Here
And
at
we'll have it
6:30.
here.
Jolly good. Rather nice to meet in this room, I think.
I'm used to it now, and I think it works
Yes.
great.
Yeah, it
Yes.
does.
Well,
It's
that's a
easy to
good
make that
idea.
hasty retreat.
Yep.
Where did you meet before?
Yes,
Oh,
dear.
okay, yeah. Yeah, this is
which is
great.
fine.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
This
Oh,
is more
yes.
convenient for.
Yeah.
This is a more intimate
Everything.
setting.
It works well. All right, everybody,
good.
thank you so much.
Thank you
Great
too.
idea.
It's very exciting.
Turn all these off, right?
Correct.